Marcus Johnson woke up early that Monday morning. The sun was just starting to shine through his bedroom curtains. Today was not a normal day. Today was the beginning of a very important job. Marcus worked for the government as a federal auditor. His job was to check if companies followed the rules about treating all people fairly. For the next few weeks, he would be working undercover. This meant he would pretend to be a regular person, not a government worker. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus asked himself as he looked in the mirror. He was a tall, well-built black man in his early 40s. Usually, he wore nice suits to work. Today, he put on a plain blue polo shirt and simple black jeans. He wanted to look like an ordinary traveler. Marcus packed a small suitcase. Inside, he placed his hidden badge that showed he worked for the Federal Transportation Authority. He also packed a special phone that could record videos without being noticed. These tools would help him do his job. His boss, Director Williams, had called him to her office last week. "Marcus, we've been getting too many complaints about Airways United," she had told him. "Black passengers and other minorities, they're being treated unfairly. They get moved from first class, their bags get checked more often, and some even get removed from flights for no good reason." Marcus nodded. He had seen this kind of unfair treatment himself when he traveled. Sometimes it happened to him too. "We need solid proof," Director Williams continued. "That's where you come in. You'll fly on 10 different Airways United flights over the next month. You'll have first-class tickets for all of them. We want to see what happens." Now, as Marcus drove to the airport, he felt a mix of emotions. He was proud to be doing important work that might help many people. But he also felt sad that this kind of work was still needed in 2025. Marcus parked his car in the long-term parking lot at Atlanta International Airport. He checked his watch. His flight to Chicago would board in 2 hours. That gave him plenty of time to go through security and get to his gate. As he walked into the busy airport, Marcus reminded himself of his cover story. Today, he was not Federal Auditor Johnson. He was just Marcus Johnson, a business consultant flying to Chicago for a meeting. His first-class ticket had been bought 3 months ago, just like any regular passenger might do. At the check-in counter, Marcus smiled at the airline worker. "Good morning," he said, handing over his ID and confirmation number. The woman at the counter typed on her computer. Her face showed no emotion as she checked his information. "Window or aisle seat, Mr. Johnson?" she asked. "Window, please," Marcus replied. After getting his boarding pass, Marcus went through security. He noticed that the security officer looked at his ID longer than he did for the white man in front of him. The officer also asked Marcus to step aside for a random bag check. Marcus made a mental note of this, but kept his face calm and friendly. While waiting at his gate, Marcus watched other passengers. He noticed how the airline staff greeted people differently. Some got warm smiles and friendly chat. Others got short, business-like responses. Marcus took out his phone and pretended to check emails. Really, he was making notes about what he saw. His first test would come soon. The boarding process. Would they try to keep him from his first-class seat? His years of experience told him to be ready for anything. Little did the Airways United staff know that their every move was being watched, evaluated, and documented by someone with the power to hold them accountable. The speaker at the gate crackled to life. "We will now begin boarding Airways United Flight 287 to Chicago. First-class passengers may board at this time." Marcus Johnson stood up, picked up his small carry-on bag, and walked to the line. He held his first-class boarding pass in his hand. 3 other people were in the first-class line. 2 men and 1 woman. All of them were white. Marcus noticed how they were dressed in expensive clothes and carried fancy bags. When the first person went up to the gate, the agent smiled brightly. "Good morning, Mr. Peterson. Welcome aboard. Enjoy your flight." The same warm welcome was given to the next 2 passengers. Then it was Marcus's turn. The gate agent's smile dropped a little when she saw him. She looked at his simple clothes and then at his boarding pass with a frown. "Your boarding pass, sir," she said, holding out her hand. Her voice was not as friendly as it had been with the others. Marcus handed it over with a polite smile. "Good morning." The agent looked at the pass and then back at Marcus. She typed something into her computer. Her frown got deeper. "Is there a problem?" Marcus asked calmly. "Please step to the side, sir. There seems to be an issue with your ticket," she said. She did not look him in the eye. Marcus moved to the side as asked, but he watched as the agent began letting economy passengers board. No one else was having any issues with their tickets. Marcus took out his phone and checked the time. He wanted to record exactly how long he was being made to wait. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The line of economy passengers grew shorter. Marcus waited patiently, his face calm even though inside he was taking careful mental notes of everything happening. Finally, when most of the plane had boarded, the gate agent called over her supervisor. They whispered together, looking at Marcus from time to time. The supervisor, a man with gray hair and a tight smile, came over to Marcus. "Mr. Johnson, there seems to be a problem with your seat assignment," the supervisor said. "The first-class cabin is full. We'll need to move you to economy." Marcus looked at his boarding pass again. "My ticket says seat 3A, first class. I bought this ticket 3 months ago." The supervisor shook his head. "I'm sorry, but we've had a change in our aircraft type. Your seat no longer exists." This was a lie, and Marcus knew it. He had checked the flight details that morning. The aircraft was the same one listed when he bought his ticket. "That's strange," Marcus said. "The Airways United app still shows this flight is on a Boeing 737, just like when I booked it. Can you explain why my first-class seat no longer exists while the other first-class passengers were able to board?" The supervisor's face hardened. "Sir, are you accusing us of something?" At that moment, a white man hurried up to the gate. He was clearly late. Sorry, he said, out of breath. "Am I too late to board?" The gate agent checked his ticket quickly. "Not at all, sir. You're in first class, seat 3C. Please board right away." Marcus watched this with interest. So first class wasn't full after all. "Excuse me," Marcus said to the supervisor. "It seems there is still room in first class. That passenger was just given seat 3C. The supervisor's face turned slightly red. "Sir, if you're going to be difficult, you might not fly with us today at all." Marcus took a deep breath. He had expected this, but it was still shocking to see it happen so openly. He decided it was time to start recording. Carefully, he positioned his phone in his shirt pocket, with the camera peeking out just enough to capture what was happening. "I'm not being difficult," Marcus said calmly. "I just want the seat I paid for. Can you tell me why I'm being moved when my seat clearly does exist?" The supervisor's eyes narrowed. He had no idea that every word he was about to say would become evidence in a federal investigation. "I want to speak to your manager," Marcus said calmly. His phone was still recording in his shirt pocket. The supervisor crossed his arms. "I am the manager on duty. My name is Mr. Reynolds, and I've made my decision. You can take an economy seat or wait for the next flight." A small crowd of late passengers had gathered nearby. Some were watching with curious eyes. Others pretended not to notice, but Marcus could tell they were listening. "Mr. Reynolds," Marcus said, "I'd like you to explain why the gentleman who just boarded was given a first-class seat when you told me first class was full." Reynolds' face grew redder. "That passenger is a frequent flyer with our airline." "I see," Marcus nodded. "And how do you know I'm not a frequent flyer?" "Sir, you're holding up the boarding process," Reynolds said, ignoring the question. "You need to make a decision now." Marcus took a deep breath. He had gathered enough evidence of unfair treatment. It was time to reveal who he really was, but he needed to do it carefully. He didn't want everyone at the gate to know. "I think we should continue this conversation in private," Marcus suggested. Reynolds looked surprised but nodded. "Fine. Follow me." They walked to a small office near the gate. Once inside, Reynolds closed the door and turned to Marcus with an angry look. "Listen, if you're trying to get free upgrades or compensation, it won't work. We have policies." Marcus raised his hand to stop him. Then he reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out his federal ID. He held it up for Reynolds to see. "My name is Marcus Johnson. I am a federal transportation auditor conducting an official investigation into discrimination complaints against Airways United." The color drained from Reynolds' face. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "This flight was randomly selected for audit," Marcus continued, though this wasn't exactly true. "The flight had been carefully chosen based on past complaints. I purchased a first-class ticket 3 months ago, just like any other passenger would." Reynolds suddenly found his voice. "There must be some mistake. We don't discriminate." Marcus finished for him. "The evidence suggests otherwise, Mr. Reynolds. You told me first class was full when it clearly wasn't. You allowed a white passenger to board in first class while trying to move me to economy. When I questioned this, you threatened to remove me from the flight entirely." Reynolds sank into a chair. "I didn't know you were a federal auditor." "That's the point," Marcus said. "No passenger should be treated the way I was just treated, regardless of who they are." Marcus took out a small notebook and wrote something down. "I will now board the flight and take my assigned seat, 3A. I will continue my audit throughout this journey. I suggest you inform your flight crew that a federal auditor is on board, but not who that person is." Reynolds nodded quickly. Of course. I'll personally escort you to your seat." "That won't be necessary," Marcus said. "I should be treated like any other first-class passenger. No better, no worse." Reynolds swallowed hard. "What happens now?" "Now I complete my audit. My team will be in touch with Airways United within the next few weeks. I suggest you review your boarding procedures and training materials before then." As they walked back to the gate, Reynolds was sweating. He typed something into the computer and printed a new boarding pass. "Your first-class seat, Mr. Johnson," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "We apologize for the confusion." Marcus took the boarding pass. He noticed it was the exact same seat he had been assigned originally. There had never been any real confusion. "Thank you," Marcus said. He walked toward the jet bridge, aware that Reynolds was watching him with worried eyes. As he stepped onto the plane, Marcus wondered what other kinds of treatment he might experience during the flight. His audit was just beginning. Marcus walked down the jet bridge and stepped onto the plane. A flight attendant with blonde hair and a tight smile stood at the door. "Welcome aboard," she said, barely looking at Marcus. Her voice was flat and cold. Marcus nodded politely and turned left toward the first-class cabin. He could feel the flight attendant's eyes on his back as he walked away. The first-class cabin had only 12 seats. It was a small space where everyone could see everyone else. Marcus found his seat, 3A, by the window. He put his small bag in the overhead bin and sat down. The white man who had arrived late was sitting across the aisle in seat 3C. The man gave Marcus a surprised look, as if he didn't expect to see a black man in first class. A different flight attendant, a man named David according to his name tag, came to the first-class cabin. He started offering drinks to the passengers. "Would you like champagne before takeoff?" David asked the woman in 1A with a big smile. "Yes, please," she answered, and David poured her a full glass. He moved through the cabin, giving the same friendly service to each passenger. Then he reached Marcus. "Something to drink?" David asked. His smile was smaller now. He didn't offer champagne like he had to the others. "Champagne would be nice," Marcus said. David looked surprised. "Oh, of course." He poured Marcus a glass that was only half full, while everyone else had received full glasses. Marcus noted this in his mental log of observations. It wasn't major, but it was another small sign of different treatment. The plane finished boarding, and the main cabin door closed. The captain's voice came over the speakers, welcoming everyone and announcing a flight time of 2 hours and 15 minutes to Chicago. As they taxied to the runway, Marcus saw the lead flight attendant, whose name tag read Sarah, come into the first-class cabin. She whispered something to David, who looked at Marcus with wide eyes. After that, everything changed. David rushed over to Marcus's seat. "Mr. Johnson, can I refresh your champagne?" His smile was now very big, almost nervous. "No, thank you. I'm fine," Marcus replied. "Are you sure? Perhaps some water as well. Or a hot towel. Would you like to see our special menu?" David was suddenly offering things he hadn't offered to anyone else. Marcus shook his head. "Just the regular service is fine. Thank you." The plane took off, climbing into the clouds. Once they reached cruising altitude, the flight attendants began the meal service. Marcus watched as David placed white tablecloths on each first-class passenger's tray table. When he came to Marcus, he carefully spread out the cloth and smoothed it twice. "Our chef has prepared a special chicken dish or pasta today," David told the first passenger. He gave the same options to each person. When he reached Marcus, David's presentation changed. "Today we have a wonderful selection prepared by our award-winning chef. The chicken is farm-raised and seasoned with herbs from Italy. The pasta is handmade and tossed in a sauce that took our culinary team months to perfect." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The chicken sounds good." As David rushed away to get the meal, Marcus pulled out his phone and made a quick note. He was documenting how the service had completely changed after the crew learned who he was. The woman across from Marcus in seat 3B gave him a curious look. "You must be someone important," she said. "I've flown first class on this airline 20 times and never seen them act like this." Marcus smiled politely. "I'm just a regular passenger," he said. The woman didn't look convinced. "Well, whatever you did, it worked. Maybe I should try your trick next time." If only she knew, Marcus thought. This wasn't special treatment because they respected him. This was panic because they feared what would happen when he reported what he had seen. The fake special treatment was perhaps more telling than the original discrimination. The flight was halfway to Chicago when Marcus noticed something interesting. A young black woman sitting in economy class kept walking past the first-class cabin to use the bathroom. Each time she passed, she looked carefully around the cabin. Most people wouldn't have noticed anything strange about this, but Marcus was trained to spot patterns. The woman had passed by 4 times in 1 hour. That was unusual. On her 5th trip past, Marcus caught her eye. She gave him a tiny nod that others wouldn't notice. Marcus understood immediately. She was another auditor from his team. This made sense. His boss often sent more than one auditor on these assignments. The second auditor would sit in economy class to see if the service was different there. When the woman walked back to her seat, Marcus pretended to need the bathroom. He got up and walked to the back of the plane. As he passed row 15, he saw the woman sitting in an aisle seat. Her name was Sophia Washington. They had worked together before, but they pretended not to know each other now. Marcus continued to the bathroom, used it quickly, and then returned to his seat. Back in first class, David the flight attendant appeared almost instantly. "Is everything all right, Mr. Johnson? Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? A snack perhaps?" "Just some water, thank you," Marcus said. David rushed to get a bottle of water. He opened it and poured it into a glass with ice, then placed a lemon slice on the rim. He set it down with a fancy napkin folded under it. "Will there be anything else?" David asked. "No, this is fine," Marcus said. As David walked away, Marcus noticed something. The other first-class passengers were watching this special treatment with confusion. Some looked annoyed. They weren't getting the same level of service. Marcus checked his watch. 1 more hour until they landed in Chicago. He decided to test something. He pressed the call button above his seat. Within seconds, 2 flight attendants appeared, both David and Sarah, the lead flight attendant. "Yes, Mr. Johnson," they both said at the same time. "I was wondering if I could see a copy of your airline's customer service policy," Marcus said. Their faces showed panic. This was clearly not a normal request from a passenger. I'll have to check if we have that on board, Sarah said. We don't usually carry those documents on the plane. I understand, Marcus said. When we land, could you have someone meet me at the gate with a copy? Of course, sir. Right away. Sarah hurried to the front of the plane, probably to call ahead to the Chicago airport. Meanwhile, the other passengers in first class were now very curious. The man across from Marcus in seat 3C leaned over. Are you from Airways United Corporate? He whispered. Marcus smiled. No, just a concerned passenger. The man didn't believe him. Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. I've never seen them jump like this. As the plane began its descent into Chicago, Marcus saw Sophia walking to the bathroom one last time. As she passed, she slipped a small note onto his armrest without anyone noticing. Marcus waited until she was gone, then picked up the note. It read, Observed significant service differences in economy. Different snacks, no drink refills for minorities. We'll meet at baggage claim. S. Marcus folded the note and put it in his pocket. Their evidence was building. The discrimination wasn't just happening in first class. The plane landed smoothly at Chicago O'Hare Airport. As the seat belt sign turned off, Sarah, the lead flight attendant, made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chicago. Local time is 10:45 a.m. and the temperature is 72 degrees. For those in economy class, please remain seated until first-class passengers have deplaned. Thank you for flying Airways United. Marcus stood up and collected his bag. David rushed to help him, almost knocking over another passenger in the process. Mr. Johnson, there will be someone waiting for you at the gate, David said nervously. Marcus nodded. Thank you for the information. He walked off the plane, wondering what Airways United would try next to fix their mistake. As Marcus walked into the airport terminal, he saw a woman in an Airways United uniform waiting. She held a sign with his name on it. Her face looked worried. Mr. Johnson, she asked as he approached. I'm Lisa Chen, Customer Relations Manager for Airways United at O'Hare Airport. Hello, Ms. Chen, Marcus said, shaking her hand. I understand you requested our customer service policy, she said. She held out a thick folder. I brought it for you right away. Thank you, Marcus said, taking the folder. That was very efficient. Lisa smiled nervously. We also have a private lounge where we can talk, if you'd like. And I've been asked to offer you a voucher for a free first-class ticket as a token of our apology for any inconvenience today. Marcus shook his head. I'm afraid I can't accept any gifts or special offers while conducting an official audit. Lisa's smile dropped. So it's true. You're from the Federal Transportation Authority. Yes, Marcus said. I'm conducting an audit of your airline's compliance with federal non-discrimination regulations. Lisa looked around quickly, then lowered her voice. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere private. Marcus agreed, and they walked to a small office near the gates. Inside, Lisa offered him a seat and closed the door. Mr. Johnson, I want to assure you that Airways United takes these matters very seriously. Lisa began. What happened at the gate in Atlanta was a misunderstanding. Was it? Marcus asked. Because from my perspective, it looked like clear discrimination. I was denied my assigned first-class seat until I revealed my identity as a federal auditor. Lisa shifted uncomfortably in her chair. The gate agent and supervisor made a mistake. They've already been reported to our HR department. This isn't about punishing individuals, Marcus explained. This is about identifying patterns in your company's practices. My team has received over 50 complaints in the past year about Airways United giving different treatment to passengers based on their race. Lisa's eyes widened. 50 complaints. That's the first I heard of this. That's concerning, Marcus said. It suggests your company isn't properly tracking these issues. Lisa looked down at her desk. What happens now? I'll continue my audit, Marcus said. I have 9 more flights scheduled on Airways United over the next 3 weeks. My team will compile a report of our findings. If we identify systematic discrimination, your airline will be required to make significant changes. And if we don't make those changes, Lisa asked, then Airways United could face fines of up to $10 million and possible restrictions on your operating licenses, Marcus explained. Lisa's face turned pale. She quickly picked up her phone and dialed a number. Sir, I'm with Mr. Johnson from the FTA, she said into the phone. Yes, the auditor. He says this is part of a larger investigation. She listened for a moment. Yes, sir. I understand. I'll tell him. She hung up and looked at Marcus. Our CEO would like to speak with you personally. He can be at O'Hare in 3 hours. Marcus shook his head. I'm not here to meet with executives. I'm here to observe how your airline treats regular passengers. Please tell your CEO that my team will contact Airways United when our audit is complete. Lisa nodded, clearly disappointed. Is there anything we can do to help with your audit? Yes, Marcus said. Treat all your passengers equally. That's all we're looking for. As Marcus left the office, he saw Sophia waiting near the baggage claim area. She pretended not to know him, but stood close enough that they could talk quietly. The airline is in panic mode, Marcus whispered. They're trying to control the damage. Sophia nodded slightly. Good. Maybe they'll finally take this seriously. We have 3 weeks to gather more evidence, Marcus said. Our next flight is tomorrow to Dallas. I'll see you at the gate, Sophia replied. But we won't know each other, of course. Marcus smiled. Of course not. We're just regular passengers who expect to be treated fairly. 3 weeks passed quickly. Marcus and Sophia flew on 9 more Airways United flights. Each time, they collected evidence of unfair treatment. They saw black passengers being asked to move their seats more often than white passengers. They noticed that flight attendants spent less time helping people of color. They watched as complaints from minority passengers were ignored or dismissed. On their final flight back to Atlanta, Marcus sat in first class again while Sophia was in economy. This time, something different happened. The flight crew treated everyone the same. They were polite and helpful to all passengers, regardless of race. That's strange, Marcus thought. Did they figure out who we are? When they landed in Atlanta, Marcus understood what had happened. As he walked off the plane, he saw a familiar face waiting at the gate. It was James Wilson, the vice president of Airways United. Mr. Johnson, Wilson said with a big smile. What a nice surprise to have you on our flight today. Marcus shook the man's hand. It seems my cover is blown, Mr. Wilson. Wilson laughed nervously. Word gets around. May I have a word with you? They walked to a quiet corner of the terminal. Sophia passed by, still pretending not to know Marcus. She would meet him later at their office. Mr. Johnson, Wilson began, Airways United has taken your audit very seriously. As you may have noticed, we've made some immediate changes to our training and procedures. I did notice, Marcus said. Today's flight was much better than the others. Wilson smiled proudly. We've implemented emergency training for all our staff. We've also reviewed our seating policies and made changes. That's good to hear, Marcus said. But I have to wonder why it took a federal audit to make these changes. Your company has been receiving complaints for years. Wilson's smile faded. To be honest, we didn't take those complaints seriously enough. We thought they were isolated incidents. 50 complaints in 1 year is not isolated, Marcus pointed out. You're right, Wilson admitted. We've let our customers down, but we're committed to fixing the problem. Marcus nodded. I'm glad to hear that. My team will continue our audit to make sure the changes are real and lasting. Of course, Wilson said quickly. We welcome the oversight. In fact, we'd like to work with your team to develop better training programs. Marcus was surprised. This was not the response he had expected. Usually, companies fought against federal oversight. That's a positive step, Marcus said. I'll mention your cooperation in my report. Wilson looked relieved. Thank you. Will your report be made public? Parts of it will be, Marcus explained. The findings and recommendations will be published, but specific incidents and names will be kept private. Wilson nodded. When will the report be ready? We'll complete it within 30 days, Marcus said. Your airline will have a chance to respond before the final version is published. As they finished talking, Marcus saw Sophia waiting near a coffee shop. It was time to wrap up this meeting. I need to catch my next flight, Mr. Wilson, Marcus said. But my office will be in touch. Wilson shook his hand again. Thank you for your professionalism, Mr. Johnson. This has been a wake-up call for Airways United. Marcus walked away, thinking about everything he had seen over the past few weeks. He joined Sophia at the coffee shop. How did it go? She asked. Surprisingly well, Marcus said. The VP actually thanked me for the audit. Sophia raised her eyebrows. That's new. Usually they fight us every step of the way. Maybe they've realized that treating all passengers fairly is good for business, Marcus suggested. Or maybe they're just saying what we want to hear, Sophia said. The real test will be what happens after our audit ends. Marcus nodded. She was right. The next step would be the most important one, turning their findings into real, lasting change. Back at the Federal Transportation Authority office in Washington, D.C., Marcus and Sophia worked hard on their report. They had collected evidence from all 10 flights they had taken on Airways United. Their office was busy with people typing on computers and talking on phones. Marcus had a desk covered with papers, notes, and photos. Sophia sat across from him, reviewing video clips on her computer. Look at this, Sophia said, turning her screen so Marcus could see. On the flight to Miami, the flight attendant asked 2 black passengers to move from their assigned seats because of weight distribution issues. But right after that, she let a white family sit wherever they wanted. Marcus nodded. Add that to the report. That's clear evidence of different treatment. Director Williams, their boss, walked over to their desks. She was a tall woman with gray hair and a serious face. How's the Airways United report coming along? She asked. We have solid evidence from all 10 flights, Marcus told her. The discrimination was clear on the first 8 flights, but on the last 2, after they realized we were auditing them, things improved dramatically. Director Williams sat down. That's interesting. Do you think they've made real changes? Sophia shook her head. It's too soon to tell. They might just be on their best behavior because they know we're watching. That's why I want to recommend a follow-up audit in 6 months, Marcus added. We need to see if the changes last when they think no one is looking. Director Williams nodded. Good idea. What other recommendations do you have? Marcus pulled out a list he had made. First, they need better training for all staff about treating everyone equally. Second, they need a better system for tracking and responding to discrimination complaints. Third, they should have regular outside audits to check their progress. And fourth, Sophia added, they need consequences for staff who continue to discriminate and rewards for those who treat everyone fairly. Director Williams looked pleased. Excellent recommendations. I think we should also require them to publish their progress once a year, so the public can see what they're doing. They all agreed this was a good idea. When will the report be ready? Director Williams asked. We should finish it by next Friday, Marcus said. We want to be thorough. Good. Director Williams stood up. The Department of Justice has been asking about this case. They're watching it closely. After she walked away, Sophia looked at Marcus with wide eyes. The Department of Justice is interested. This is bigger than I thought. Marcus nodded. Airways United isn't the only airline with these problems. Our report could lead to changes across the entire industry. They worked late into the night, carefully organizing all their evidence. They included the recordings from the Atlanta gate where Marcus had been denied his seat. They added photos, notes, and statements from other passengers who had noticed the different treatment. Around midnight, Marcus sat back and rubbed his tired eyes. "Do you think this will really make a difference?" he asked Sophia. She stopped typing and looked at him. "I don't know, but we have to try. Every small change helps someone." Marcus smiled. "You're right. Even if we just make one airline better, that's thousands of passengers who will be treated more fairly. And maybe other airlines will see what happened to Airways United and decide to fix their problems before they get caught too," Sophia added. Marcus nodded. He felt tired but hopeful. Their work was difficult and sometimes frustrating, but it mattered. Every person deserved to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their race. If their report helped make that happen, even a little bit, it was worth all the hard work. "Let's finish this tomorrow," he said. "We have a big day ahead." 6 months had passed since Marcus and Sophia completed their report on Airways United. Today, they were back at Atlanta International Airport. This time, they weren't working undercover. They were there for an official follow-up inspection. Marcus wore his official Federal Transportation Authority uniform with a badge. Sophia walked beside him, also in uniform. They didn't need to hide who they were anymore. The airport manager met them at the entrance. "Mr. Johnson, Ms. Washington, welcome back. We've been expecting you." They followed the manager to a conference room where James Wilson, the vice president of Airways United, was waiting. He stood up when they entered. "Thank you for coming," Wilson said, shaking their hands. "We're ready to show you the changes we've made." For the next 2 hours, Wilson presented all the new programs Airways United had started. They had created new training for all staff. They had set up a special team to handle discrimination complaints. They had even hired outside experts to test their service regularly. "That all sounds good," Marcus said when Wilson finished. "But we need to see it in action." Wilson nodded. "Of course. I'll take you to our gates now." They walked through the busy airport to the Airways United section. Marcus noticed right away that something was different. The staff behind the counters was more diverse than before. There were people of different races and backgrounds working together. At the first-class check-in desk, Marcus saw a sign he hadn't seen before. It read, "Airways United is committed to treating all passengers with equal respect and dignity." "We've put those signs at every desk," Wilson explained. "It's a daily reminder to our staff." Sophia pointed to a kiosk nearby. "What's that?" "That's new," Wilson said. "It's a feedback station. Passengers can report problems right away, and the reports go directly to our customer service team and to management." Marcus was impressed. These were real changes, not just talk. They spent the rest of the day watching how Airways United staff treated passengers. They saw flight attendants being equally helpful to everyone. They watched gate agents being polite to all passengers, regardless of race. At the end of the day, Marcus and Sophia met with Wilson again. "What do you think?" Wilson asked. He looked nervous. "We've seen significant improvements," Marcus said. "Your staff is doing much better." Wilson smiled with relief. "Our customer satisfaction scores have actually gone up 25% since we made these changes. It turns out that treating everyone fairly is good for business." "We're glad to hear that," Sophia said, "but we'll still be watching." Wilson nodded. "We understand. We welcome the oversight." As they left the airport, Marcus felt proud of what they had accomplished. Their work had made a real difference. "Do you think it will last?" Sophia asked as they walked to their car. "I hope so," Marcus said. "But even if Airways United goes back to their old ways, other airlines are watching. They've seen what happened here." Indeed, since the Airways United report had been published, 3 other major airlines had started similar training programs. No one wanted to be the next airline caught discriminating against passengers. On their drive back to the hotel, Marcus and Sophia passed a billboard for Airways United. The new slogan read, "Airways United, where everyone flies first class in dignity." "Look at that," Sophia said. 6 months ago, they were denying you a seat because of your race. Now they're using equality in their advertising. Marcus smiled. That's how change happens. Sometimes it takes pressure, sometimes it takes time, but it does happen. They still had work to do. One airline couldn't fix all the problems in the transportation system, but each step forward mattered. Each person who was treated fairly because of their work made all the difficult days worthwhile. As a federal auditor, Marcus couldn't ask for more than that.